I had the great privilege and joy this week of spending a couple of days backpacking in Oregon near Crater Lake. For those who don't know, Crater Lake was formed when Mount Mazama erupted and collapsed nearly 8,000 years ago. And the result was a large caldera that has been collecting rainwater ever since. And it is a remarkably clear lake. By way of comparison, for a lake close to home, Lake Tahoe, they measure its clarity with something called a Secchi disk. And generally in Lake Tahoe, they can get down about 75 feet and still see the disk, which is very good. In Crater Lake, that number can be as low as 144 feet. So it is a remarkably clear blue lake, and it took my breath away. And as I was sitting there on the edge of the rim of the collapsed volcano, I took in that magnificent beauty, but then my mind jumped on me to a very different, more recent volcanic eruption. One only 225 miles to the north in an area that's nearly identical geographically, that of Mount St. Helens. It erupted when I was 4.5 years old. I was just a little tyke. But not long after, my family took a trip up to Oregon to see some of my father's friends, and he just couldn't resist the temptation to stop by Mount St. Helens to view the devastation. And what I saw as a small boy of maybe 5 or 6 has scarred me to this day. Most people, when they think of hell, they tend to go to the more traditional imagery of fire and smoke. Not me. I see that ashen, desolate, terribly void view that I saw at Mount St. Helens as a young boy. Back to Crater Lake. Part of what one learns when they visit the park is that Native Americans were in the region at the time it erupted. And it was so transformative, obviously, that it became a part of their oral history. And they have a story around Mount Mazama and Mount Shasta fighting with each other, and eventually Shasta more or less winning and Mazama collapsing. And they eventually shared these stories with the Europeans. And so I imagined what it would have been like for those Native Americans after the dust had settled to climb up to the rim that I was standing on, and survey the devastation that at that point probably looked much more like what I saw at Mount St. Helens than what I saw in the beauty of today. All of this reminded me that God has a remarkable way of redeeming things that seem irredeemable. I could not have imagined witnessing Mount St. Helens that there would be trees growing again. And yet already there are. Could the Native Americans have imagined that what they were witnessing in that deep hole would eventually be so beautiful as to made into a national park? People that come from thousands of miles. I heard many different languages from Asia and Europe there to witness the beautiful scene. Could they have imagined that when they stepped on that rim? Today's gospel passage uses the metaphor of a shepherd desperately searching for his lost sheep, and that of a housewife desperately turning her home upside down to find a coin. And the obvious question is why? Why are they so persistent after such a small thing? Why would they go to all of that effort? I believe the answer is because deep in their being, they believed what was lost could be found. And that is why Jesus uses this as a metaphor for redemption. Today, we are called to believe that the lost can be found, that the sinner can be redeemed, no matter how improbable it may seem. I'd like all of you to close your eyes. No, seriously. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes. And I want you to think of the person you despise the most. Perhaps it is somebody who physically harmed you or a family member. Perhaps it's a politician you vehemently oppose or a coworker who constantly frustrates your efforts. Perhaps it is a friend or family member who took advantage of you. Bring that image into your mind and imagine that they are right in front of you right now. And allow yourself to marinate in those feelings of animosity that you have. You know they are right there. Feel those feelings of distrust that you have. Now open your eyes. If you want to know how much your heart has been transformed to follow Christ, you need only ask yourself one question. Did you see in front of you someone who is redeemable? Can you see beyond the hurt and pain and all that was lost through the devastation of your interactions with them to see in that despised person's heart a deep blue lake of nearly unimaginable purity? And just as importantly, are you willing to turn your life upside down in the pursuit of that possibility that they might be redeemed? Make no mistake, this is what Christ calls us to see in every person, even the people we most despise, even if we despise them with good reason, to see in precisely those people someone both capable of and worthy of redemption. Jesus died on the cross just as much for them as he died on the cross for us. When he sees Mount St. Helens, he sees something that he knows will be beautiful again someday. Can we see it? Can we look into the heart of every human being, even those whose hearts appear as desolate as Mount St. Helens, and see a Crater Lake in the making?